Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Today I have something really interesting. A subscriber has sent me an email a few weeks back, I guess it's been, and I've been trying to get up with her, and today it's worked out. So we have two Bigfoot encounters. And the second encounter is going to be really interesting. So I hope you all enjoy this. If anyone out there has a story of Bigfoot, Dogman, or any kind of cryptid or supernatural type creature, you can shoot me an email at brentonson@gmail.com and I'll get back to you and we'll just figure it out on what to do from that point. And if your story is good enough to pull together for a single video, we'll make the whole show about your story. If it's short, we might put a few together, something like that. Well, anyway, today we have Isabella Claire with us from Utah, and we're just gonna go to her right now and she can give us a brief bio on herself, and then we'll start with the encounters. So that's, I think, the best way to go from this point. How you doing today, Isabella?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I really appreciate you working with me. I know that our schedules kind of didn't go together there a few times, but you've been kind enough to let me push your interviews and stuff back a little bit, and I appreciate that. So if you would, Isabella, give us a little brief introduction about yourself, and then we'll go on to your first 1982 story and your 1988 story after that.
Sure, you bet. And thanks for giving me a chance to tell the story.
Well, thank you. You're
welcome.
welcome.
I really appreciate that. But I'm Isabella Claire. I work as a psychic and a healer, and I really enjoy my work. And I do see into the other side quite a bit, the other realms. And the Bigfoot encounters that I had are have been really powerful for me in my life. And I really don't go in the woods like I used to, that's for sure.
Right, they tend to be very scary for people, and I know that one of them that you talked to me about certainly was a very traumatic thing, and I guess some people have some teddy bear type experiences with these creatures, but I tend not to ever get those emails. So I get the ones that end up being pretty bad usually. So anyway, if you could, Isabella, tell us kind of what the flora and fauna was like in the area that you had this encounter, and in the state, and just kind of describe the area, and then just tell us about the 1982 encounter, if you would.
Sure, you bet. It was right outside of Ogden, Utah, and people around this area would be very familiar with this area. And there's a 12th Street Canyon that goes up towards a reservoir, Pineview Reservoir, and there's a North Fork area, what they call North Fork in the mountains, and an area where they call South Fork. And there are places where you can go way up in the mountains, and the trails are better now. The roads are better now than they were, but they used to be just, backcountry roads, and we would four-wheel up, and we would, build campfires, have a little beer sort of thing. And so in 1982, I went up there. We were on a double date, but we constantly double dated with these people, and it was me and my friend. And as a matter of fact, one of the people who were there was a direct descendant of Meister Eckhart, which is kind of a strange little part of the story, and his regular date. And so we went up in the Blazer, we went up the canyon, we went up to South Fork, we drove way up in the mountains, and it was a Friday night, and it was in the late summer, So the weather was really good. And we got out of the vehicle and we built a fire. And it was a pretty good sized fire. And my guy was standing up on the other side of the fire. We'll just call him Jerry. And then there was Toby and Sharon. And we were all sitting around the campfire. And all of a sudden, there was a rock that was thrown at me and Toby. And Toby looks at me and he says, "Somebody, did you see that rock?" And I said, "Yes, I just saw that rock." And he was freaked. He was freaked. He was like, "Okay." And then a bigger rock came over right in front of us from out of the trees. And Toby was pretty scared. I was really familiar with the woods at this point. My father's a world-class hunter. Been in the woods most of my life, know how to shoot a gun. We didn't have a gun with us. But, and these guys were all hunters. The two guys that were there with us were hunters. And, so we were pretty scared, and then all of a sudden it screamed. And, Jerry was standing on the other side of the fire, and he said, "What was that?" And the rest of us we were like, "We don't know what that was. What was that?" And we were talking like it wasn't a cat, wasn't a big cat, it wasn't a bear, and it screamed at us again, and we left. We left, and it was literally 20 feet away from us. And I can, right now, I'm got chills all over my body, and my hair on the back of my neck is standing up because I can remember how it screamed. And it wasn't until years later when I was listening to Coast, and it was the first time that I had heard somebody, George Norrie, playing the recordings of all the screams that had been collected.
Right.
And it was very, very frightening.
Right.
When I first heard those screams on the radio.
Okay, so
but we were all very frightened.
Oh yeah, most people are when they hear those. Now I just got done recording an interview with someone in Texas, and they got hit with this sound, and the wife had went to the truck. And the husband basically got hit with the sound like 3 times, and he got in the truck and he could not stay awake. It did something to him, and he fell asleep in the truck for 30 minutes, and she had to sit there waiting for him to wake up to be able to leave. But so the sounds are very, very disturbing, and a lot of times very loud. They were talking about how loud it was. But how far away do you think that it was when you heard the screams?
I think it was about 20 feet away. And see, it's very dense up there. The trees are very dense. I don't know if you've been to Utah, but the woods are very dense here in areas. And it's always a little bit drier over there on that side of the mountain. Right. And South Fork is pretty famous place up here. Okay. And it was so close. And I remember it was very otherworldly. It was like instantly when we heard it, for me anyways, it took you to another place. It was like almost like an added dimension. I really don't know how to describe it, but you knew it wasn't anything you ever heard before.
Right. Now I do know that there are some critters out there in the woods that can make some very weird and scary kind of sounds. But typically when someone encounters a Sasquatch making this sound, there's something about the volume. Was this something that you actually seemed to feel, and the volume was just, undeniably way much more loud, or the lung capacity you could tell was just more, or was it?
Well, you could tell it was trying to scare us in a way. It was very aggressive, and this is the weird part, is you could tell it was off the ground. It wasn't coming from something low to the ground. It was coming from something like 10 feet up.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
And the rocks came flying over us. They came over our heads.
Yeah.
And they were pretty big rocks, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way that any animal that wasn't Bigfoot threw these rocks.
Yeah,
There's just no way an animal can throw a rock like this.
Yeah, that's the giveaway. You know, and I was telling you a little bit about the interview I did earlier today, and I asked you if we could do yours a little bit later, but that was what happened too, is the rocks. Now, how big was the rocks that the thing threw at you?
Oh, maybe like 3 to 4 inches round. And you know what? This is the funny thing. The second time that the rock was pitched, it came out of the trees at a level about 12 feet up. I saw it come out of the trees.
Okay.
It was just really freaky. And it was after that, and I think, and you know, Jerry was like 6'3". Jerry was big.
Yeah.
And we did have a big fire. And we did have a big blazer truck, right?
Right.
And, you know, I don't know if it didn't attack us because Jerry was so big and Jerry was standing the whole time. I don't really know why it didn't attack us. But that rock, I saw it fly out of the trees.
Right. Yeah.
And it came from something big.
Okay. Now, when the rock hit the ground, did it just hit the ground and stop, or did it skip along the ground?
Well, the first one was a little bit smaller and just about missed Toby's shoulder, and it was a little bit smaller and landed right in front of us, like right at our feet, between our feet and the fire, which is like maybe 4 or 5 feet.
I mean, the reason I'm asking is because sometimes sometimes they'll be kind of a little bit away, and they'll throw it up over the trees, and they're so very accurate even when they do it like that. So when the rock hits, it just thuds and stops. But if they throw it at a trajectory, like straight out, then a lot of times it'll hit and skip. So that's the only reason I'm asking.
They thudded right down. It was like an arc.
Okay.
It was like an arc, and then thudded down. And the second one, when I saw it come out of the trees, I can't explain how I felt, but I just thought, at first I thought serial killer, you know, who the hell is up here where we are?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no cars. There's no way there was anybody up there.
Right.
There was no cars, and it's one road up, one road down.
Right.
And it thudded right in front of us, and it was very accurate. Actually, that's interesting that you mentioned that. It was very accurate.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Actually, I've talked to a few people, and they actually hollered back at it and said, because it was throwing acorns, so it wasn't like real dangerous or anything to him. He didn't feel threatened, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but he said, well, hit me next time. And all of a sudden, bam, he got hit right in the head. It's like, bam. he had it on camera and everything. It's like, my goodness, dude, you better quit asking for that now. But that made me think about how accurate they really are by lobbing it. And he had it on camera, and you seen the trajectory coming in through the trees and the angle. So by analyzing the footage and looking at the angle, this thing kind of hit a limb and, you know, came down. We could tell that it was actually thrown from a good little ways away. I mean, like 60, 70 yards. It was lobbing it up over the trees and depositing it down into between the trees where he was, and with accuracy. So I was like, wow, that's like a pool player or something, you know, shooting pool or something. So quite interesting. Well,
well, the tree line around us wasn't more than 15 feet, and it was an oval tree line. It was where we built the fire and where the fire pit was was an oval space, you know, like a round space. And where I saw that rock come from, he was right there. And he threw the rock through a little opening in the trees. And if we had, I guess we could have saw him if we wanted to see him. But it wasn't until a few minutes later that he screamed at us. And it was so loud.
Right.
It was very loud, and it was very, very frightening.
Oh yeah, that's what I've heard. It's a very traumatic thing. So you all just ended up leaving?
Yeah, we left because it was so strange, and we couldn't figure out what kind of animal that was. And like I said, those guys were hunters. All their lives, they were hunters, and hunting's a big deal out here in Utah.
Right.
And
so they would know what if it was a normal.
Know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's.
I've heard wildcats. It wasn't a wildcat.
Right. Yeah.
No, he did the woo, the big yell. He did that twice.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. It's when they're throwing the stuff at you, they are basically, it seems, with all the different stories that I hear and collect, it seems like they're asking you just to go, and then if you don't, then it can get worse. But they're basically saying go, and I had a story that I uploaded just the other night where the man didn't know it was a Bigfoot. He thought it was a dog in the road. It was real foggy and what have you. He threw rocks at the Bigfoot, and I just thought, man, that's so ironic. Here's the Bigfoot. It was in your territory, and you were throwing rocks at it. And he ended up having a very close encounter, like 2 feet away, very close, and it scared him pretty bad. But the Bigfoot didn't hurt him.
This one was so close to us. I can't even believe. And you know what? I think it wanted to hit Toby. I think it was trying to hit Toby.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think because Toby was smaller than the rest of us. Maybe he just saw him as the victim. I'm not sure.
Well, let's go on to your next encounter, because I think this one is going to be very interesting. If you would kind of tell us where it happened, and just give us all the details you can think to give us as you tell us the encounter.
Sure, you bet. And this is in the same area, but it was about 7 to 10 miles as the crow flies from the first time. And it was a different year with a different friend. And this woman practiced a type of Indian medicine, and she liked to go in the wilderness all the time. So where it was as you same sort of direction. Where you go up 12th Street is Ogden Canyon, where Ogden is, and you go up the canyon towards the reservoir. Well, it's on the face of that canyon, looking out towards Ogden, and it was on the south side of the canyon opening. So, and there's hot springs up there. People are always going up there. But we had kind of hiked up. There's a little kind of flat area with rocks, and we had hiked up there at dusk. And my friend, I'll just call her Tare, and she wanted to light a little fire on a rock, and just say goodnight to the sun, and do a little ceremonial thing that she was used to doing all the time. And so it was daylight when we got up there, and then we talked for a bit, and then she built a little fire on a rock, big rock, right, big rock, and so all that was above us is huge boulders, huge forests. No way a person could walk through this. Okay, there's just no way. I don't even. Maybe a huge elk or moose could make their way down, but not really. And very treacherous, steep mountains. The Wasatch Front is dense forest and sheer rock. And so the sun goes down, and it gets dark, and she's putting her little twigs on the fire, and we're just talking by the fire, and all of a sudden, we hear footsteps coming down the mountain. And this is the thing, there were 2 feet. There were 2 feet. And so we're listening. I'm like, what is that? She's like, I don't know. What is that? And so I listened, and I said, that's 2 feet. That's not 4 feet. That's 2 feet. You could actually hear, I'm getting chills, you could hear the clicking of its nails, of its feet on the rocks. It was very frightening.
Mm.
And so as it's coming down the mountain, granted this is dark. There's full moon though. There's full moon. But it was dark. And as it's coming down the mountain, it's breaking trees. It's not just breaking trees. It's making a lot of noise. More noise than a moose, more noise than an elk, a lot of noise. And you could hear those 2 feet coming down the rocks. It was so scary. I'm getting really scared right now because I don't really talk about this because most people don't want to hear it, so I don't really talk about it. And so.
Well, just relax. Don't rush yourself. Just relax.
I'm not there anymore. Yeah, it's funny how you forget you're not there anymore when you go through something so traumatic. So it's crashing faster and faster, coming down that mountain, which is impossible. No two-legged human could have came down that. I mean, I could send you a picture of it. There's no way.
Right.
Big, huge boulders, dense forest, and it's coming faster and faster at us. And so I said, we need to run. We need to run. And you have to understand, where we needed to run to the car was really steep. You really shouldn't be running down loose rock and boulder and stuff in the dark.
Right.
I don't even know how we made it to the car. So we're listening to it, and we can hear it come faster and faster. You could hear it breathing and grunting, but it was almost like it didn't want to make a lot of mouth noises.
Right.
It wanted us, and it started running towards us. It got really close to us. All you could see was something dark and big, and we took off running. I don't know how we made it to the car. We made it to the car, and we just sped off. And we were very, very frightened, but that thing wanted us. It was coming straight at us, and it was at a run, and it was going to get us.
Okay, let's stop for a second and analyze this a little bit. So you could tell it was bipedal, so it could, and that's a very common thing when people say it sounded like it was on two legs and it wasn't a four-legged thing.
Yeah.
Because the human mind recognizes a gait from a bipedal. It's kind of subconsciously, something that you can do. Okay, so you're hearing the nails clicking on the rock. That almost sounds more Dogman-like, unless the.
I don't know, but you could hear. I hear it in my head if I think about it, and because it's so quiet up there. And I wanted to tell you something else is that it had a very large gate.
Yeah, well,
like
yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, so it was kind of quite heavy, and they've got extreme steps, that's for sure. So when you seen the dark outline, could you kind of describe was it humanoid? Was there did you ever get a look at the head profile or anything like that? Did it have a snout maybe, or did you see the legs?
You couldn't see the face because of the way the angle was with the moon and the clouds. You couldn't really see the face, but it looked like a monster.
Yeah.
It looked like just like what a kid would think of as a monster.
So
And
you're pretty sure it
I
was.
saw the shoulders, and it was running. By the time I saw it, it was running at us.
Okay.
I know it stopped running because there's no way we could have outrun that thing. No
Right.
way.
Okay.
No
Now
way.
the outline, did it look more like a Sasquatch um uh, uh, than maybe possibly a dogman or
I don't really know what a dog man looks like, but you could see a head, but it didn't really look like a head. It was kind of flat on top in a way, or kind of slanted down in the front. And then you could see its shoulders, and then the rest was sort of enveloped into the background.
okay, well
And
that sounds more like Sasquatch with the slanted down. So you did get to see a little bit of a was it running straight at you or kind of an angle for you to see the
straight at us. At the time when I finally saw a figure of it, straight at us.
okay.
There's no way anything could come down those rocks. This is the thing. And the way it was breaking the trees. I think maybe it was enjoying the sunset too, and it didn't like us building the fire.
Right. Oh no,
And,
they do the tree snapping on the way. Was it did it sound like big limbs or
it
kind
sounded like it was pushing down the trees. It was breaking the trees as it was coming, and it was so scary. It got louder and faster, and
yeah.
I can't believe how powerful they are.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I've seen them just basically grab a hold of an 8-inch around tree that's not dead and break it. It's unbelievable. And
It was
twist
pushing
them.
the trees out of the way.
Yeah,
Like
and they shove them down. They certainly shove them down too. It's amazing how in the heck can they do that? So this was a big animal then. It was can you kind of maybe guess at the height or the maybe shoulder width and something like that?
Maybe 9 or 10 feet tall. You know, there was something really interesting that had happened about 4 years before this. I was in the Ogden Canyon with another friend. I'll call her Betsy, and we were driving along that same 12th Street Ogden Canyon, going up to Pine View Reservoir. Everybody knows that road up here. And there was a bunch of people on the side of the road. And we were like, what are they looking at? What are they looking at? And you could see something coming down the mountain, breaking the trees as it went. So we got out of the car and joined the group of people who were looking across the canyon road up into the, this is a steep canyon, very steep canyons here,
Right.
very high canyons, 11,000 feet mountains.
Right.
And we went over to this group of people and we said, what are you guys looking at? And they said, there's Bigfoot coming down the mountain, breaking the trees. And so that would be a third time that I've actually encountered something going on. And those people were watching him break the trees and come down towards them.
So
I saw it. It was very scary.
So was it a little distance off or something or?
Yeah, it's like across the canyon. So some
Okay.
people had binoculars. We didn't. And we had to go somewhere, so we got back in our car and went on. But it was very frightening. You could see, this was the freaky thing about that one, is you could see the trees being parted.
Right. Wow.
And you could see the dark fur every once in a while through the dense forest, right?
Right.
But I'm getting scared just thinking about that. So that's actually a third time, but that was like 1983 or something, 1984, somewhere in there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
They darn sure aren't tree huggers, are they?
Amazing.
The Sasquatch is not a tree hugger, is it? They go ahead and dispose
He's a
of
tree destroyer.
Yeah, they'll dispose of a tree, dispatch one in a second, man. They don't, they're not like, don't hurt the trees at all. You know what I mean? So that.
But when me and Kara were on the mountain on 12th Street, that thing was going to get us. It wanted us. It wasn't just trying to scare us, because it didn't holler at us. It didn't throw anything at us. It was just running towards us.
Yeah, that's an aggression thing. Actually, you know, they are able to be seriously stealthy, and they can sneak up within inches up from you. And if you go watch some of Mark Zaxby's stuff from in Florida, he's actually got footage on accident of one crawling within maybe 6, 7 feet on the ground, sneaking stealthily beside them as they go down this trail. And that's how sneaky they can be. So typically, when they're coming at you like that, they're trying to scare you by snapping the trees and breaking stuff, and they very well could be wanting to come get you. But if they wanted to hunt you as it like you were going to be food, they would catch you more like they would their prey, and they'd be stealthy and what have you. So that it was showing aggression for you to. I don't know if it's a good idea for you all to be camping out in that area. That's
No, and there's a very famous guy here in Ogden, and he used to go by the nickname Duke. And he like I've been up to the Pineview Reservoir with him, and he can see arrowheads from 20 feet away and pick them up. He's an amazing person. He saw Bigfoot one time in the Ogden River, walking through the Ogden River, which runs through the Weaver River, I think that's what they call it, runs through Ogden, runs right through Ogden, goes out west, right?
Mm-hmm.
Goes all the way through town. He saw Bigfoot hunting one time, and he said Bigfoot picked up a rock and threw it at a rabbit and hit the rabbit in the head, and then he ate the rabbit.
That's just incredible. Yeah, I was telling somebody about you telling me about that. That's fascinating, and that goes to show you how accurate they are with the rocks and the ability, the ease that they can really go out and get themselves something to eat. So when he described this, did he give you any more detail on like where it was and how the thing was approaching it, or
Well, where he saw it was 12th Street and what they call the old highway 1900, right near there, and then there's less trees now and there's more houses, but back then, even 20 years ago, there really wasn't that many houses out here. It was still an old farming community. But Duke had seen Bigfoot so many times that he was freaked out. And his eyes constantly were really huge all the time. For some reason, Duke, being a mountain man, Bigfoot found Duke all the time. And Duke saw Bigfoot many, many, many times. And just really freaked him out. And I can see why. But I remember reading or seeing online a couple months ago that people find piles of rock in the Bigfoot camps, right?
Oh,
Bigfoot
yeah.
And maybe that's why. Maybe he's just sitting there waiting for a rabbit to go by so he can hit it in the head.
Yeah. I know that sometimes they'll be inside one of those like evergreen pine tree type things. You know how sometimes you can like push open how the pine trees go all the way down to the ground. You can kind of push them open with the bigger ones, and you can go in there. You ever seen those kind of pine trees?
I have. I have.
Okay. They're whatever kind of trees they're called, but basically it's like a little fort for a kid, you know. But I know that there's this one fella that was talking about that he was hunting almost all day in a tree stand, and finally, like at some point, you know, later in the afternoon, he saw the pine tree part open, and a Bigfoot come out of it and took off, and he was like, "My goodness, that thing has been there all day watching me." Or, you know, was there. But there was a game trail that went right by it. And the really neat thing about it was that he went over there to look. and he parted it open, and there was a place wallered out in there where this thing was sitting, and there was a bunch of turkey feathers and turkey bones and stuff like that. So this thing was actually sitting there waiting for turkeys to come by, and he'd just stick his arm out there and grab them. Heck, they got like a 6, 7 foot arm sometimes, you know. I mean, quite. I mean, they're good, man. I mean, those things can hunt now. It's amazing.
Well, I think Duke was saying that he was hunting when he saw Bigfoot this time in the river, and that Bigfoot was going from tree to tree.
Yeah.
Like hiding, like standing near a tree, like almost blending in with the tree, and then going to another tree, and hunting that way. He watched him hunt.
Wow.
And that's when he found and you know, you have to understand that I was told this story by Duke, and this was in like 1982 that he told me this story.
Okay, so was this before or after your encounter?
Sorry?
Was this before or after your first encounter?
This was before.
Okay.
And everybody was like, Bigfoot hunting with rocks? What? That's crazy. You know, we were all like, what the heck does that mean? But it turns out, yes, that he used to say that Bigfoot would walk from the canyon all the way through the river. And I know the deer walk along the river here.
Right.
But he might have been following the game trails.
Wow. That's fascinating.
I know.
I'll tell you what, they can stand beside a tree and blend right into the tree. It's incredible. And you know, there's a lot of people like, why don't we have more pictures? It's hard to catch them. It's hard to see them. You can walk right by them and not see them. It's amazing, really. And,
well, I remember when he was chasing us off the mountain, me and Care. It was like stepping into another dimension. When they're around, it's like, I can't describe it, like maybe when someone would see an angel or an otherworldly being, it's that feeling you get that it's supernatural.
Right, yeah.
It's a very supernatural sort of feeling.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
To me, I think they're telepathic.
They very well could be. I take guesses at it. I kind of think that they're a hybrid Nephilim type thing, but there may be, you know, some of them that are completely on the supernatural side. And you know, other than that, I kind of make just, you know, I guess at it using basically my thing is to search out these mysteries with the biblical worldview. So I find things in the scriptures to compare to the things that we are looking at, and the Nephilim thing is kind of the theory that I would lean more to. But then again, I don't know for sure. You know, I don't have a specimen. I can't, you know, say for sure. So I mean, everybody's guessing pretty much. Yeah.
That is so interesting that you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt. That is so interesting because I think they're the Nephilim too, and I think they eat people. I think I've been very, very lucky not to be eaten by them.
Right.
And I noticed when I went into the Uintas. One time someone forced me to go into the Uintas. I didn't want to, and I know there was one around. I think they're telepathic, and I think they know when people are psychic or have a spiritual edge to them. And I do believe absolutely they are the Nephilim. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and the Nephilim is a little bit different, you know, than an angelic being. An angelic being would be totally supernatural. But see, some people go wrong by thinking angels don't have bodies. Apostle Paul said that, you know, not all flesh is the same, but he said that angelic beings have flesh, and you know, and earthly beings have flesh, but the glory of them are different. So there's a difference, but they have bodies. They do eat. You know, because sometimes I'll say, you think the dog man might be supernatural, and say, sometimes I think they're supernatural, but then they're seen eating. I said, well, okay, so angels in the Bible sat down and ate with Abraham. You know, they wrestled with Jacob, and he threw his hip out. The manna that was given in the wilderness was food that was actually from heaven that angels eat, and humans could eat their food. So angels can eat our food and we can eat their food. So we're very, very similar. And I think that's how they were able to mate with the daughters of men. And however this Sasquatch thing come about, I don't know if it was a type of angel that looked like a Chewbacca or something, that mated with a woman. Because if you look at the beasts that are before the throne, there are some very strange looking angels that, the angelic creatures. And so they could very well start with several different kinds of looks. Even the dog man type, there certainly are some described in the Bible that have a lion's head or a head that has of a bull and an eagle head. So we're talking about all kinds of different, very strange looking entities that are out there. And that's if you believe the Bible, and so if you cross that with humans, you're going to get some odd creatures. And interestingly enough, the word satyr in the Old Testament in Isaiah 34 means hairy. So they could be some type of satyr, and typically, a satyr people would think of was some half humanoid, hairy. They typically would draw a picture of a hairy bottom half and then a human top half with the horns, and the goat legs or whatever. But it doesn't give you that description. So wherever that came from, I don't know. But the word actually means hairy. And it says that they call to their fellows, that they live out in the wilderness. They call to their fellows, and it gives other creatures that live out there too. Doleful creatures, habitation for dragons, and so it seems like there's a lot of different creatures mentioned there that live away from human beings. And but the calling to the fellows was interesting to me because the first thing Bigfoot researchers do is they go out in the woods and they call to the, so, it's interesting for sure.
And, I've seen all types of angels. There's good angels and bad angels, and yes, they do have bodies. And, there's gargoyles. Those are the natural enemies of man. And they really do, they do look like those beings like on the buildings and stuff, but they have wings. There's all sorts of creatures on the other side.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get the impression that the good angels are the prison guards for the bad angels over there. Mm-hmm. And they're angels in the flesh. That is for sure, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, that is biblical. They have bodies. And even the Lord, when he was resurrected, he went to Thomas and said, "Stick your hand in my side and see if I'm not flesh and bone." And this is in a resurrected body and that could go into heaven, And so they have flesh and they have bone for sure. Now, whether or not they have blood, I can't say for sure, but
right.
They definitely have bodies, and because I've encountered them, so I was very confused about the way people would tell me that it was supposed to be. And it's like, look, I encountered a few different types of things, and they had bodies, and it was very scary. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Well, starting to get into a different video here. But anyway, that if you want to sometime, I would like to maybe have you come back and talk about some of the other interesting things about the reptilian things being attached to people that you say that you have seen, and just to kind of hear your thoughts on it, and I'm just be honest with you, I may not always agree with everybody's viewpoints, so but I'm not mean about it or anything. You know what I'm saying? You might not agree with me on everything.
I think that's how we learn too, is when we listen to other people. Like if I listen to you, I'll learn more about what I saw, right?
Yeah.
We have to share these things in order to learn.
Yeah. Well, I certainly believe your story.
I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I've seen thousands of other creatures on the other side. On the other side, like all sorts of gods and goddesses, I've seen the gargoyles. I've seen the giants. I've seen the light angels. I've seen the dark angels. I've done exorcisms for over 34 years on people's homes and businesses.
I mean, doing what you're doing, I would assume that you have seen some things. That's for sure.
I can stand on the other side anytime I want, but I've been able to do it since I was little, and I can turn it off. However, when I'm in public, sometimes those beings just want to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. That's for sure. Like I said, that's a whole different topic, and but that's a little bit of an idea. If you do come back on, that the viewers will know that it could be very interesting. So.
I would love to.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you coming and telling what you have experienced, and it helps put together some evidence for Utah now. The more that we collect, or more that I collect, the more that I realize they're all over the place. These Sasquatch are, and Utah is certainly a place I would have thought they would be in, but I think they're in every state. I really don't think they're just in some Northwest or something, because I get calls and reports from everywhere except Hawaii. I get different kind of stories from Hawaii. There are some things over in Hawaii, but they aren't Bigfoot, that's for sure. So anyway, well, thank you very much, Isabella.
So much for letting me tell my story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And you know that when you start talking about it and sharing and stuff like that, that it starts to help you desensitize to it, so it's not so traumatic to you. If you go to a professional counselor, for counseling on it, that's one of the things they will tell you to do, is start talking about it to some kind of group or what have you. So, YouTube will have to be your group for this moment until you find another one, but it's not easy to find a Bigfoot group. I guess you could go on Facebook or something, but, talking about it helps desensitize you, so it won't be so traumatic to you.
Well, I think we need to know that they are out there and they're not friendly, and we need to be careful.
Right. I believe they're very much more dangerous than some people think, and I also think that that in the Revelations, where it says that there's basically a being that comes out of the bottomless pit, and he's given command basically over the beast of the earth and permission to kill a fifth part of mankind. I think that Dogman and Bigfoot would certainly be in the category of beast. So, when Jesus said that people's hearts would fail them for fear of what's coming coming, could you imagine seeing a Dogman and Bigfoot army coming at you, or big,
Oh my God.
I mean, I may be wrong about that,
I think they're killing the people in the national parks, all the people that are missing. I think they're being eaten by Bigfoot. And another thing, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think that Bigfoot, I think they bury each other like humans.
Yeah. Actually, I had another guy that was, he was going to come on and talk about that. I don't know what kind of evidence or proof he's got on the burial, but I do know that in Louisiana, there's a story about dogmen attacking this farm, this ranch, and basically, this was back in the Indian days when the Native Americans was living in the area. But the dogmen were becoming a problem, so the Indians basically went up to Ohio and stole some bones from Sasquatch burial grounds and brought them back to the area they lived. And the Sasquatch came down and ended up getting tricked into a war with these dogmen. And so that pretty fascinating. Wow. You can find that story on Dark Waters channel. I interviewed him on my channel, and you read the titles of the videos, you can tell which one it is. But to me, that's a fascinating story right there. But anyway, he was saying that the Indians basically stole the skulls from burial ground. So they knew, the Native Americans knew that the Sasquatch were burying their dead. That's why we don't find bones.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know how I could prove or verify it, but I believe that. Well, anyway, thank you very much, Isabella. And if you keep my email and things, email me back when you think that you might want to pull together some information and talk about the other stuff, whatever you think might be interesting in the reptilian or other type supernatural cryptids, and we'll have you on. All right.
I would love to. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Be blessed.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So YouTube land, I hope you enjoyed that. Some interesting information there, and just more stories of the rock throwing and tree breaking and typical activity of these Bigfoot beings up in Utah. So I don't think that any state is free from that type of thing. If you go out in the woods, don't go alone, and certainly pay attention to what's going on around you. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next video. If you have a story to share, you can email me, brenton@gmail.com. Bye-bye.